Hi, this is Talking Dreams with Lady Lex UK. In this series, I'm going to be interviewing a number of dreamers about their experiences in dreams, their portfolios, their likes, their dislikes, and what they think the future is going to be. My first interviewee is Mr. Wooshie. Thank you to him for volunteering. This has come about because I asked the question, what would you like me to do on my channel? And my subscriber base, 2 or 3 people actually suggested interviewing other dreamers. So this is what this video is. We did it on Twitch over a couple of hours. I have edited the Twitch stream down so that it's now a 2-part interview. In the first part, we're going to talk to Mr. Wooshie about his portfolio and the way he chooses to create things. And in the second part, we're going to go a little bit further into what he likes in dreams, what he thinks the future is going to be, and we'll end it with a quick tip tutorial that he's composed specially for us and for my channel. So enjoy, and part 2 will be along in a few days. I have with me today Mr. Wooshie. Say hello. And I'd like to thank you, first of all, for volunteering to be my first victim in this. I got a few volunteers, but you were absolutely the first person to come forward, so I'm really grateful. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me.
No problem. So we'll start off with a few geeky stats about you so that people know who you are. If you haven't come across Mr. Wooshie's stuff before, you can see on the screen there we've got a collection of the things that he's made. But according to In Dreams, you have played 403 hours of Dreams.
Wow.
I've published 88 creations. Hardly any of those are now public. I didn't think there was 88 there, but 88. You've been featured 3 times by Media Molecule in their streams. That was Wizard Warfare, Silver Slumber, and Volcano Survival. And you've got 4 creations in the top 500 most popular dreams of all time, which is Wizard Warfare, which is at position 319, Silver Slumber at 313, Volcano Survival at 57, and Sailor Stanley at 409. Now, Sailor Stanley being an element, there's only 5 elements in the top 500, so you're in very rare company there.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's you. How would you describe yourself, actually, in dreams? What sort of a dreamer are you?
Definitely more of a creator than a player, I would say. And primarily my expertise, if you want to call it that, tends to be more on the character side. So, sculpting characters, animating them, and just all the logic that goes into that. Everything else, I have no idea about.
Right. Along with the rest of us. That's fine.
Exactly.
So, okay, so how did you find out about dreams? What attracted you to it in the first place?
So yeah, to explain that, I have to go a bit further back to Little Big Planet, back in, I don't remember what year, but earlier 2000s, and I forget, I was a little baby pretty much playing that game, and there was something really enticing to me about being able to play a game that I was able to make my own games in. Again, especially as a kid, that was more accessible to me, and I couldn't try to program anything. I didn't even know that was a thing, there was no way that would have been possible for me. So Media Molecule, through Little Big Planet, were able to help me understand all this stuff about level design, game design, like all these things that I never would have tried to do on my own. And it was cool that these ideas that I could imagine, these characters that I could think of in my own day-to-day life, I could then replicate and bring into this game to share with other people. So that led me to just playing all the Little Big Planets, getting addicted to every single one and following the releases of all that. And after Little Big Planet 3 came out, I remember there was a gap of nothing. Like, I know Little Big Planet karting came out at some point, right? But, there didn't really seem to be any other Little Big Planets that were going to come. So I know that was when I looked up the actual, company, Media Molecule, and I saw they were working on something called Dreams, to which I was like, well, what is that? And in that, I started following it, and, immediately I was hooked. Just seeing, because it was Little Big Planet, but on steroids. Every bit of it was better. You could make so much more than you can make. I mean, I've been here since before everything, so I know the struggle that everyone went through when we were just waiting for information, all the lava cookie stuff, all the things that we had to put up with.
Yeah.
And
So was this
yeah,
before E3 when they announced the Dreams at E3? Gosh, when was that? 2000.
I don't.
I can't even think.
I think at the
16.
time, I think the time I saw it, there was nothing. I don't think there was anything to see. I think it was more of just an announced thing that they were working on it. And I think, wasn't it the first thing that they put up? I want to say it was it was part of E3, but there was no gameplay. It was just kind of like background stuff. They were using it as like transitions, right?
I can't
think that's what
remember,
it
to be honest with you.
So
I mean,
it'd be like someone playing music or whatever, like little random stuff like that, and then it would go to like the next reveal of some other game for E3. So it was kind of like it for like those of us that were looking for Dreams, we didn't really get anything.
right.
We just kind of got like these cool transitions, but we wanted to like see more because at that point, I don't think we've even seen the creation tools yet.
Right, because the first thing I saw was the trailer with the polar bear playing piano, and the polar bear sliding down some snow and all of that. But
I do remember
you're
that.
describing things that I think are before that.
Yeah, and I could be wrong because again, it's been my memory's fuzzy. I know, I do remember though, like that seeing those things, and I think the trailer as well that you're describing with the polar bears, and I do remember like just myself getting annoyed, like because I was just like, it's like, come on, like let's see the actual like gameplay. How does it actually play? What do you do?
Yeah. Did you think at the beginning it's like, what is this?
Like that was, and at the time there were a bunch of rumors. I remember that people saying like what was going to be part of it and what wasn't. So I know like that's what I was excited about because they were talking about how it's basically all these things from Little Big Planet but improved. And I know there's some features that I think just never got added. I don't know if they were true or not. Like I know there was more stuff about like save states between dreams, and there was like a whole thing like that. Oh, you know what I remember? I don't know if anyone else remembers this. It was like one of the rumors or something, but it was basically where they were saying that like you can preload a dream from one to the other. So that way, and I think the example I remember seeing was you could have two levels and then just a tunnel in between it, and as you're running through the tunnel, it'll start loading the next level.
It actually
instead
does
of
do that.
the current way. Does it? Because right now it still does the bokeh bubbles and stuff. Like from what that sounded like, it sounded like it was going to be a seamless thing from one dream to another.
Yeah, they do. They do partly load the level linking dreams so that it is fast. So there is that going on. Not sure about the tunnel idea with what you're describing. As we know, it's not seamless. It's pretty damn quick though compared to some other systems. So it's not bad. But yes, they did an awful lot of teasing us with stuff that hasn't come out yet. We haven't.
Yes.
Certainly, we don't have the ability to make games together.
That's such a big thing too.
Because there was a lovely video of them all jumping around on some cake and stuff, and it was like, yeah, that sounds great, but there's no multiplayer and there's no multiplayer create. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Oh, of course. I mean, that was one of like another reason why I think Little Big Planet was so special to me and many others was not only could you create though, you could create with other people, and being able to like, and I know in this game and that game and all these games you can play, but I'm always looking at this from a creator point of view because I feel like that's what's drawing most people is they're coming in as creators. So there was like something nice about that, just the collaboration, and that's what I've been hoping for Dreams. Like I know it's been about 2 years now since the game came out in beta, it's more or less, and so we're still kind of waiting on that idea of like again being able to play with others. Because I don't know, it just seems like it's so necessary. Because right now it's annoying. It could be that's the only word I could use to describe. It's annoying that you have to you have to privately or publicly upload something so someone else can edit it and then upload that back, and it's just sending files back and forth. It's not as easy to work with as it is. And I know some people that are getting into dreams, that's part of the thing they struggle with when they're trying to collaborate with others, is they're not entirely sure, how can I work with somebody else? Because it's not very clear.
Yes, I'm with you on that. Collaborating is actually rather difficult. And it is when you're trying to describe to somebody what you think needs to be done, and they go, yeah, I understand, and they go away, and you have to wait for them to do whatever it is, and then come back to you and go, right, I've launched it up, have a look. It's like, no, that's not what I meant at all.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think we're all in bated breath, I think, for more multiplayer stuff.
Absolutely.
But in terms of what Dreams actually is now, I've got a list of some questions that my viewers and subscribers have put down as what they want to ask you. And Mucho Humpty, this is a fantastic name, wants to know, what did you expect from Dreams, and has that been fulfilled?
What did I expect from Dreams? Well, okay, what I expected from Dreams was the opportunity to create anything that I dreamed of. Obviously, as the name dictates, right? So I want to say, for the most part, that's been delivered on. I think the only issue kind of comes to my own ability to replicate what I'm imagining. And I know, I know this is not exactly the question, but a similar thing is, I know also, like, what I wanted to do in Dreams, like my expectations for what I was going to be doing, has definitely not been met, and that's by the faults of my own, because I came into this wanting to make games that, again, I dreamed of, that I imagined, that I really wanted to do, but over the past 2 years, I haven't had a chance to make any of those things, because I've been too focused on just helping everyone else. And nothing wrong with that. I think it's a good thing to help people. Obviously, that's what I've been doing, and that's what you do as well, right? And so it makes sense that you want to help people. But I know that there's a part of it, too, where you also need to do stuff for yourself. There has to be at least a little bit of selfishness, because if not, you just get burned out. And I know for me that was the big thing. It just burned me out, because every time that I would load up Dreams, it wasn't to make what I wanted to make, it was to make something for somebody else that most of the time they wouldn't even use. They would ask for all these different things. I would give it to them, and then at some point they'd be like, you know what, I'm not really feeling this project anymore, so I'm just going to kind of leave it on hold. And it's kind of like, and it feels like, I don't know, there's something a bit negative about that, because it's like, I feel like, not that, I don't know, maybe I wasted my time, something. I try to look at it positively, though. And the positive way that I look at it is, okay, even though this stuff is not getting used at all, and it's going to just be somewhere in limbo for indefinitely, probably, at least I learned more. I had more practice, so I feel like I'm a bit better than I was before. And to kind of jump off that is, and I know, so basically, currently I'm making sure that I finally can do in Dreams what I've been wanting to do all along. So I'm making it so that my expectations will finally match what is actually happening.
But there are people that have used your stuff, so it's not as if it's not it's not as if you spent 2 years making stuff that nobody's ever seen, because that would be tragedy.
Well, actually, as you mentioned earlier, there's about 80 or so creations that were published, and you can't see all of them.
No.
The reason for that is because they're not mine. They were somebody else's that they collabed me in, and I helped them with.
Wow, it's that many. It's that many. You are far too generous with your time, Mr. Wooshie.
I've helped a lot of people. And that's what I mentioned when I say a lot of these projects don't come to see the light.
Oh dear. Well, let's have a look at one of the projects that did, shall we?
All right.
We'll play something. Let's have a look at Volcano Survival.
Yes.
Now, I really like this game, I will say. So you did this as a collaboration with Hyper Dream Surfer, Slyro, Zadira, and Raruni Dan.
Yes.
So how did that come about?
Well, there was a few things behind the scenes that I can't really mention, I don't think. That's not for me to say. But what I can say is, so obviously the first name you see on there is Raruni Dan. So this is his project. And basically, he already had a team set together that were working on this initially, but as he said, he wanted some extra help with it. So that's when I got pulled in to do some animations and just kind of help work on the character. So I do want to say, there's a few other projects that aren't in the thing because they haven't finished yet, which stuff's still being worked on. But I know like I frequently collaborate with Roroni Dan on his different projects. So there's a chance that in the future you'll see like my name and his name on multiple things because of that. But
okay, so
he's
so
more
what?
somebody who can get a team together than me.
Okay, so what's yours in this game?
So Toucan was actually like me and Sly Rowe both worked on it. He did the initial parts of the actual sculpt and all that part, and I came in to then just do a little bit of cleanup, more or less, on some of the character, make it a little bit more seamless, and then I came in and added the animations and the logic into it. And actually, funny enough, if you can hear every now and then the toucan, the little sounds that it makes, I actually voice recorded all of those as well, just to try to give it a little bit more personality, because as Dana told me, he wants it to be very derpy.
Right.
So that was the end goal.
I've just paused the game because I was playing it, but because the music is quite loud, and I'm not sure that
if you
we can
restart
hear
it, you can change the settings.
Can I? Oh, okay. Let's try that. Because I've just realised that probably that drowned out everything you just said there, so I just paused it so we could hear you.
Okay.
Let's try that again. You reckon there's a setting? Oh yes, settings it says.
There is. I remember helping program that too.
Ooh, lovely. I've turned it down. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know what was missed. I don't know if you want to ask something again. I could repeat the answer.
No, I think we're okay. Oh, I've gone to it back up again. Right, how do I come out of there? Right, okay. Let's try that again, shall we? I mean, this menu's lovely. The title sequence and everything. I mean, it's all very professional looking.
Yeah.
Were you pleased with it?
It was collaboration. So, like, for example, right now, this opening animation, I did that with the toucan, getting it some movement, doing, like, the camera movements and all that. But then, someone like Hyper, Dream Surfer, he worked on the volcano and would do the animations for that. Roroni Dan, he's the one who he made the signs at the beginning and made them bounce around and do all those animations. So that's the thing where it's like, it's hard to, like, pinpoint who exactly did what past those things, because we all kind of dabbled in each other's work. And I think that's why it was a fun collaboration, because it felt like everyone could work on everything.
Yep. It's definitely, but it's definitely cohesive. It doesn't look like, this was clearly done by this person, this was clearly done by this person. It does look like a fully realised idea. So it's not...
Yeah, and again, all the credit for that goes to Dan.
Yeah. Excellent.
I mean, he organized it and made sure everyone was on the same page, and that we all, whatever any of us contributed, fit with the overall vision for this whole thing.
My toucan has died. It's really hard to have a conversation and play this at the same
believe me, I know.
time.
Just a quick thing, as a quick little Easter egg in this game.
Mm-hmm.
While you're playing, if you click both the left stick and right stick, there should be a little bonus thing in there. If that is still in there, and if that has not been removed yet.
Right, I got them. I'll just retry it, and we'll see. I've got to push both sticks to see what happens.
Yes, yeah, once you have control over your toucan.
Okay. Oh, he's Godzilla.
and that was probably, like, that wasn't worth it, because I spent, like, probably a half hour just doing that one sound.
Oh, really?
And then I just, completely ruined my voice after doing that.
Oh, no! Okay.
Voice acting is hard. I've learned that now.
Right. No more Godzilla impressions from you, then. Okay. We'll bear that one in mind. Anyway, there we go. That was Volcano Survival. So, it's a good time to talk to you about the learning curve in Dreams. So, obviously, you didn't do this as your first... You didn't start doing this straight away.
Yes.
So, what was the learning curve like? How long did it take you to get comfortable with the tools?
That's the thing. I don't think I can say there was a set, like, time frame of this is how long it took. I know it was during early access because I got early access the day it came out, because of course I did. So, I want to say maybe a few months, more or less, because really the biggest challenge to me was just getting used to the controls. That was the hardest thing. Because I don't have move controllers. I have just the regular DS4 sitting around. So I saw people making all these crazy sculptures, but every time I saw them using the move controls. You look at the tutorials in the Dreamiverse, the master classes, and those expect you to use move controllers.
Yes.
So there's a bit of a different learning process you have to have when you're using just a regular controller. And again, that was the biggest hurdle for me, but again, I feel like once I got that, now at this point, I'm very comfortable with the controls to where I don't have to think about it. That was the big thing too, is having to remember what does what. Like, you know, how if I move the imp this way and like how does it pull this object to and from. But thankfully, I got lucky because the logic is so similar to Little Big Planet that all that just carries over. Like, I was able to replicate some of the same stuff I made in Little Big Planet in Dreams. Obviously just, you know, a little bit more upgraded and a little more HD, but it was still easier to adapt from one to the other.
I always wondered that because I came from Project Spark and everything was completely different. And it was like learning from scratch, but there was people making things and I'm thinking, I'm guessing that Little Big Planet is it's helping these people learn quicker.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, just because like if you put down a microchip, you know, you go through all the different gadgets in there. These gadgets, a lot of these are the exact same as what you'd find in Little Big Planet.
Right. There was enough differences between the two games that if you struggled with Little Big Planet, do you think you're going to struggle with Dreams?
Well, I think by and large you will struggle with Dreams initially, no matter what, just because of how unique the tool set is than any other program that you could try to find. But again, at least logic-wise, because that's the thing that it's very close to where it's like you could replicate something you did from Little Big Planet into Dreams. And actually, you might be able to make it better because with the additional gadgets, it makes things easier. I want to say, again, the hardest adaptation, if someone's coming from Little Big Planet to Dreams, is not only the controls, but having to adapt to 3D. I think that's probably like the biggest thing. Because having to because you have to focus on so many different accesses at the same time that I know it can be a bit overwhelming.
I quite often find that I make something look really nice from the front, and then I go around the side, and it's like, what on earth is this?
Exactly, and that's why like a lot of times you have to, you know, have clones of it from all the angles so you can see it at the same time, or just constantly be spinning around and looking at the whole thing. So that's part of like getting used to the controls, is just knowing how to navigate around the space itself.
I haven't worked out how to do clones yet.
That's easy.
I've tried a few times and it doesn't seem to clone at all. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing wrong. But
it could just be something as simple as, I know sometimes people forget to tick the little symbol on the side, and that's all it is.
It could be as simple as that. There we go. So I mean, I haven't really used it, but you'd recommend that, would you? Using a cloned.
Yeah, so
skull.
Actually what I had done for a project, I forget when, but basically it was for character design, so of course I wanted it to look as nice as possible. So what I did is I actually cloned it, so I had in total 3 copies of the exact same model. And what I did is I made it so one copy was just normal as is, a second copy was just colored solid white, but it still had the material properties. And then the third one was solid black, but had no material whatsoever, so it was just completely flat. And what that helped me with is it helped me be able to see all the different aspects of my design. So on the normal colored version, I could see that it's more detailed, and I could see like, okay, do these colors work? Does this look okay? And then I could look at the white version and just make sure that my seams look okay, that everything, the shapes kind of go together. And then of course the black one is a common design thing, which is silhouette. And for anyone that's doing any character design, you want to make sure that you try to implement a strong silhouette into your character so that they can be easily recognizable. A lot of times, I think what people struggle with when they do that is they tend to over-design or they oversimplify. And you have to find that balance depending on your design. So for most characters, if if it's designed well enough, you can just look at the shadow of that character and you just know who that is. So I can look at Sonic's shadow and I know that's Sonic. I'm not going to confuse it with some other character.
Right. So, I've just opened up Sailor Stanley here as an example of one of your character models that you've done. How long did it take you to... Now, I know that this was Mario to start with,
Yes.
and that you amended it. So how long to amend Mario into Sailor Stanley? How long did it take you?
To be honest, that actually was very quick because, well, I guess... Because it's weird to like explain exactly how that works because of course the framework was already there from it being Mario in the first place. That made it a lot faster to have to like edit this. Although to be fair, I did actually completely resculpt it. So if you put the two side by side somehow, you would see that like they aren't the same at all. Like
to be honest, I can't remember what your Mario character looked like. Which parts of this are the same?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is that yeah, they're all different.
Yeah, there we are. So, go on then. How long?
So yeah, I'm looking at the version history on my site just to kind of get an idea. And from what it looks like, it took me probably just a day or so, and that was it to just resculpt it, like and start from scratch. But the reason for that though is it was easy, and the reason it was easy though is because by the time I redid it, I had already made so many characters, and I had done this so many times that it was just like clockwork. I knew exactly how everything was going to go and what to do. So
right.
That helped. I mean, for example, like the first Mario, that was back in January of 2019. So when it was time to make him Sailor Stanley, according to the version history, that came in February of 2020. So over a year later, I then remade it, and I feel confident enough to say that over the course of a year, I have improved to some degree. So if you go all the way back to the very first one, you'll see just how rough that one was.
Let's just go rewind it. There we go, right to the beginning.
And
oh my!
It's such a far cry from this final Stanley version.
Okay, there we go. I have put him up. There we are. Aha!
This was like one of there's a few versions that came out in beta. This was one of the original ones. And this was just a test sculpt. I mean, I think this was literally the first thing I sculpted in Dreams. The first thing I made was Mario.
Why Mario?
It's very rough. The reason I made Mario, and I say this a lot to anybody that asks this type of question, where basically I think as an artist, the easiest way to learn tools, at least for me, is to replicate something. So a lot of times in art, they want you to do still life drawings to imitate art before you try to get into your own style. And that's part of the same process for Dreams, in my opinion, where if I want to make my own characters, I should know how to make a character, period. So the whole point with Mario, and as I kept working on Mario in the later stages, was I knew that if I can get him closer to looking like Mario, then I knew that I was on the right track. I knew that I was getting better, because if I can replicate something that already exists, then I can easily replicate something from my own imagination. The problem is a lot of times, when you just go straight to trying to make something from your mind, if you mess up, you can make a lazy excuse for yourself that, well, that's intentional, right? Like,
yes,
one eye's slightly bigger than the other. But, I mean, sure, that's just part of my design. And you can cheat it. But again, if you're replicating something, there's a right way and a wrong way. And you know when you've done it right. And that's why it was important to me that the first thing I make was Mario, because I just wanted to get the hang of the tools. I did not expect all the things that came after to happen. I didn't know.
You didn't know that everybody would want to use it.
I did not know it was going to get spammed like crazy. That was not the goal. The only reason, and that was the thing, I only published it because at the time, again, back in beta, you could see it was back in January.
Yes.
There weren't characters available, really. Like, if anything, it was more like maybe people had some sculpt stuff that they did and they uploaded so people could use, but you couldn't get, like, both. Like, I uploaded because I'm like, okay, I have a character that looks unique, as in it doesn't look like just a regular blue puppet, but also I actually took the time to add logic to it so it can actually do stuff now. And that was the only reason that I uploaded, because, again, nobody had done that yet, so I wanted just to set that as an example to hopefully see people improve. of course, that got out of hand, and that led to me doing tutorial videos as a way to kind of make amends and still teach people, but in a way that won't come back to bite me. Of course, eventually, I deleted Mario, or at least I thought I did, and people still found a way to keep using it, and that was the point where I just rebranded into Sailor Stanley, which I got lucky enough to do it before Nintendo found out, so that's very lucky on my part.
Did it worry you about copyright and Nintendo possibly taking it down, asking Sony to take it down?
I never thought about copyright until after the fact, once it finally happened. Prior to that, my only concern with this Mario was all the spamming and all the meme stuff. That was where I felt bad because I inadvertently had contributed to it. And I just felt terrible for it.
Oh.
Like my pride and joy is Milo the monkey. That's like my baby right there.
Well, let's have a look at him then. Let's put him up.
And he got overshadowed because of my Mario. And for a time I was known as the Mario guy, and that was not something I was proud of or happy about.
There's some great clothing animation on him, so everything bounces.
Yeah, and even then, like this one, that current one is an older version as well, and I've also since updated that, but that is yet to be public, so that's just a tease for the future.
So have you got an urge to make a game with this character, or is that not what you do?
I've been wanting to, and that kind of goes into the earlier thing I had mentioned where I wanted to make games in dreams, but I got so stuck with helping people that I never had a chance to actually make a game. So at most, I could make a character like Milo, but before I could try to figure out how to make a game with him, I was being pulled into someone else's project. And I just never got a chance to circle back to it.
How did you do the UI at the top?
That was probably the part I hated the most, I would say. Well, okay, it was basically, you can actually edit, I believe, because it is remixable.
Yeah, it is.
And
let's have a look and see how you did it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in there. And
okay.
I can help you navigate. I can help you navigate to it.
Woo! Puppet logic. Okay, where's the UI?
Let's see. If you open, I believe it's in the orange microchip.
The run microchip? Or the controller logic?
Oh, the control one. Sorry.
So the controller logic. Okay.
And there's some of the UI is in the top left microchip from there.
Ah, there we go.
And then right now I'm looking for the other. I have the rest of it. It's been a while since I edited this, so I'm trying to remember where I put it. My work is very messy.
I'm not saying anything because mine is also very messy, and people complain all the time at me that I do my tutorials and I've got messy wires. But
okay. So yeah, so sorry. So I found the stuff. So that stuff there is for the life bar, which there's that's just basic life bar logic. Which that was also I did that in a tutorial, so it's the same stuff there. So I'm not going to go into that. But if you actually change the invisibility setting, like the preview invisibility,
okay,
because there's an invisible block in the character itself, and on that invisible block is a long microchip. If you scope into the block there.
Yep. Oh, wait, I got it.
Yeah. And then there should be one that says head.
Yeah,
and then
I see
that one has all of the that's all that is just to make up that little image on the top left, the little head.
Oh, isn't this clever? Yay. Lots of emojis and shapes.
And this was not easy.
No, it's not.
I hated every step of this.
Have you seen my my landscape that I did with just text gadgets?
Oh, I don't think I have yet.
Yeah, I had a go at doing an entire landscape just using text gadgets, and never again do I want to have an attempt at that. It is.
That's the thing. Text gadget is not easy to use.
No, it is not. But this is genius. Because the thing is, this is, I think, for me personally, this is something in Dreams that's missing, and that's UI and HUD tools. I mean, I'd love to be able to paint something and then have it in the display layer, same as the text, so that I can have it placed on the screen.
Of course.
And they don't. that doesn't even seem to be in the pipeline. So it's like, oh, it's a
I know there's
shame.
currently the easiest way is I say easy, but it is still hard. Is through custom cameras and sculpting objects to fit the screen and all kinds of things like that.
It's so glitchy that. But
Yeah, I've
yeah,
been experimenting with that recently, but just to try to get the idea of that.
yeah, it's not the easiest thing to do that either. I just
Oh,
want an easy
absolutely.
tool, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I just
just
think if we could just paint on the text boxes or something like that, that would be so much faster.
three of my subscriber viewers, they asked question which is vaguely the same. So Vesso Hag, Corey McSweeney, and Vakaris Grinka, they basically want to know what's the difficult part for you in dreams. What's the hardest part of sculpting? What's the hardest part for learning? What's the hardest gadgets for you? Which are the bits that you think are
Okay.
difficult?
Right. So, go. I'll do this one step at a time. That's so I can remember all this. So, the first thing in terms of sculpting, I think the hardest thing for me is trying to keep things nice and smooth, because as you keep adding more shapes, you kind of get a bit of lumpiness every now and then, even when you're
Yes.
blending. So I know that's kind of something I'm trying to work on. I want to keep everything as clean as possible. So that's usually hard for me. In terms of tools, I don't use a lot all the tools, so I would assume the hardest ones are the ones I just don't use. That would probably be what I would say. But um, in terms of logic, I will say what I have not quite figured out is the best way to use all the various sensors. Because the other day I was trying to do a test and try to basically, the short explanation was trying to make it so that an object can detect where the ground is or what direction the ground's facing and try to match that. And that was a lot harder than I thought it would need to be. And I know my struggle was because I just don't understand sensors, so I wasn't sure what was ideal for that.
Right.
Yeah, but again, I think though, and as far but like the actual hardest part though, for me is the actual creativity part of it, because at this point I feel like I forgot a lot of the ideas that I had, so I'm a lot of times just kind of stuck trying to like think of an idea. Uh, as I recently started a new project, for one of the things is I need to make a character, but the problem is I have no idea for what the character should look like, and that's probably been the hardest part, is just trying to think up designs or trying to think up ideas. Because once there's an idea, I think then it's just go for it.
What do you do when you're faced with a blank canvas and you go, okay, I've got this great idea, I want to just go for it? How, how easy is it for you to just start a project?
Uh, I mean, depending on what part, because as I mentioned, I haven't done a full project, but since I'm doing more character stuff, it's like once I have a design of a character in mind or drawn out, and I know what I want it to do, I just start doing it, because to me, like, I don't know, it just kind of works. I'm not sure how to explain that best, but it just like it feels like easy to me. It feels obvious to me. Where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I know this is the shape of the hand, so I am now going to sculpt the hand in the same way that I drew it, and again, it just kind of goes from there. But for everything else, that is where I try to do a lot of pre-planning and just prepare and try to think of what I'm going to need. So if I'm trying to do music, I try to not obviously, not that you have to think of the actual notes, but I try to think of what is the overall feel that I'm going for. What is the type? What mood do I want to elicit from people with this song? And that's like, again, but it always circles back to the hardest part is just coming up with the idea in the first place.
Yeah.
Because I think for anybody, if you're confident enough in your idea, then that's all that matters. It's just that as long as you like your idea, because then you don't have to worry about anything. Just start going for it at that point. Obviously, by then hopefully you already know how to use the tools and whatnot, but
So
it's
how
just the idea.
how detailed drawings and whatever do you do?
Well, since majority of the stuff I made is cartoony, they're not that detailed in that sense. But well, that's part of my background. Is I actually come from like art and animation, and which I don't like to say that because that I feel like that puts me at a standard that I'm not at, where people are like, oh wow, he did animation professionally. He should be way better at this. I wasn't as good then. I'm still not good now, so I'm still trying to practice and get better. But because of that, like that background is what helped me. I think that's what helps me have a better eye for this type of stuff, to where I know like if I'm drawing something, I know how it's going to translate to 3D, just because of many years of drawing at this point since I was like a baby. And for animation, it's a bit of the same thing, where since I animated, I know all the tricks and techniques to it, and I know how to mime stuff to try to get what I'm trying to make out of it. So like that's kind of, so I guess in that sense, it's to the average person, they might look at this drawing and not see it as very detailed, but to me, I know what it translates to. Like to other people, they might not have a clear idea of what I'm going for a lot of times.
Have you ever gone in and just thought, I've got no plan, no idea, no nothing, I'm just going to sculpt and see what happens?
I've tried to be that way a few times, but I just can't do that, I don't think.
It's not your way.
I wish I could do that, but I think I'm somebody that, I think if I don't have a plan, I just get lost. If I'm not prepared, I don't know what to do. So if I try to wing it, it doesn't work.
Is that part of the training and the teaching, learning and stuff that you've done previously that tells you plan?
Maybe. I think that just comes down to more of a personal issue, to where I need to learn how to just be more adaptive to creations. The problem is I get in my own head, which I'm sure every artist does, to where I overthink it and I want it to come out perfectly, and so then if I just start making something from scratch, I'm gonna hate every step of it because I'm just thinking, oh, I could have planned this better, I could have done this better. So it's just like it just hammers it into my head that I should probably prepare first, so I don't go down this horrible cycle.
So how much of the stuff that you make do you delete?
Ooh, actually, not a lot of it. Funny enough, it's just private, so no one ever sees it.
So of your 88 creations that it thinks you've done, that's roughly what you've been working on?
I wish I can count them, because there's a lot in here. I feel like there's more than 88, to be completely honest, but maybe it doesn't count some of these that are still technically not published.
I'm not sure how it counts, to be honest.
Yeah,
because mine's a bit...
I feel like this is easily over 88.
Right, because mine's 900 and something, so I don't...
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I know. So I don't know whether that counts the deleted stuff, because I delete a lot. I mean, I spend a lot of time making something and then go, that's crap, and deleting it. So, but you don't do that. You plan it out, you make it, you get it right, you publish it, or whatever.
Like, I think the only time where I'm kind of like, I'll just figure it out is more when it comes to the other aspects of it. So with like sculpting, I want to make sure that I have a clear idea of what I'm trying to sculpt. But when it comes to animation and logic, that's where I'm more open to it. Especially with logic. You have to be open with logic. You can't plan out logic, because 99% of the time it will not work the first time you do it. And right. I know for that's where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to wing it and just figure that one out. And I think that's why I keep all of my creations, even if they're just for me to see, because there's so many different things in here that are different, that if I'm trying to make something, there's a moment of, oh wait, I've made something like this already, let me go dig it up and just see how I did it and try to do it again. I recently did that for a project I'm working on right now, where I had to think of a character to use for the main thing, and as I was thinking, I realized, like, wait, I have a character that is just sitting there that I made way back that works perfectly for this, that I completely forgot about. So that's the main reason I like to keep my creations, just because I never know if I'm going to need them in the future.
Yeah, I can't do that, otherwise I'd get too much stuff. I mean, how often do you have to tidy your local drive?
I mean, not too often, because every now and then I just go on a delete spree and just get, like, before it tells me anything, I just start deleting stuff that I'm like, okay, I don't need this because I for sure won't need this or that.
How scary do you find that? Because I find it scary. It's like
I think I don't, because I know the creations I'm deleting. I am like never gonna need those ever again.
right.
Like there's like because a lot of my stuff I make is more like test, so it's like testing this or that, and I don't need those once I've already made like a version that's not a test anymore.
Right. Okay, should you
Like, I don't
archive
know.
a lot of stuff?
I try to archive, or if I can just outright delete it, I'll do that too. I try my best to just get rid of stuff.
Yeah.
Because like I had like at one point I had I think like 5 different creations which were just about trying to figure out how to make cameras. So by the 5th creation I'm like, wait, I'm doing the same thing again, I should just delete the other ones.
Well, let's play. I'm going to play Wizard Warfare because this is something that you made by yourself, right? Have you got your name on? It's a version of Rock Paper Scissors. The first time I saw this, I thought, "Oh, how clever!" It's like it's such a simple idea, but brilliant.
It was so much harder than I could have imagined.
What was actually? We're going to have the problem with the sound again. It's not too bad.
It shouldn't be so loud.
It's
I
fine.
believe. I didn't put a settings option because I didn't know how to do that. I had to work on this by myself.
Right. So I'm going to choose water, fire, earth.
Oh, see, and no one ever looks at the how to play section.
There we go. Oh, draw.
It says you select and then you press X to pick.
I always lose.
Well, there you go.
No, I didn't. I got one in. Haha.
And like, so with this idea, I mean, I think this came about because the jam at the time, I want to say, was something related to medieval fantasy, something like that, I want to say. So I figured, like, I want to do something for that, 'cause that sounds fun. And I know there was a few people I was trying to collaborate with at the same time, and we all talked about doing something together, but as per usual, that kind of fell apart, and I guess to put it bluntly, despite all the people I help, nobody ever wants to help me, and I think I'm always kind of salty about that. But so with this wizard game, I think it just hit the point where it's like, okay, the jam ends in like 2 days. I really wanted to make something for this. Nobody's gonna help me. I'll just do it myself. So there's a lot of like stuff where I could have probably done better.
Well, this works really well. It got a 25% placing in the game jam.
Yeah.
Which is good. Which is great. How many game jams have you done?
Only like a handful. Less than, maybe like 3 at the most, I would say.
So what would make you do a game jam as opposed to not doing one?
Because it just inspires me. Because like I mentioned earlier, once I have an idea, then I just go for it. So sometimes the jams just give me an idea. I see what the current rules are, and I just have an idea in my head, and I want to start making it.
Oh, I just keep getting a draw here.
Yeah, that happens. That's random generation for you.
Yes. Perhaps I shouldn't be random. Perhaps I should be random, and then maybe I got one through. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how it is actually like random, like a randomizer. There is no like, oh, it leans towards this or that. So that logic was just a nightmare to make, mainly because if it was just a turn-based system where you just, you pick one and they pick one and that's it, that would have been so much easier, and I should have done that. But because I wanted to, like, for some reason be clever, and I wanted to have it so you basically load up your rock, paper, scissors moves, so you, like, you load up to 3 at a time, that was where the logic became very difficult, because it needed to pick one thing, which was easy enough, but then once you move on to the second thing, it has to lock in the first thing without shutting anything off, because if it shuts off, it deselects it. And you didn't want to keep it on, though, because then the second one would also control the first, and it was just a horrible back and forth nightmare. So the logic, it's not editable, but if you were to open it, it'd be the most disgusting thing ever. Like,
I think
the chip itself is the size of this whole level. It's just gigantic.
Really? Just to get the randomizer working?
Well, no, the AI stuff was easy. It was the player part that I had to account for.
Right.
Thankfully, the AI was probably the most basic thing that I could have done. and that all that one has to do is it just selects from 3 random ones, and that was it. Like, that's pretty simple.
Right.
But because the player has their own input, I had to account for that. And I did account for it, so that's why, as far as I know, no one's been able to break it just yet. But there's so many fail safes in here.
I think I might have got some food. Yes! Is it first to 10?
No, there's actually an endless mode on this one.
Oh, it's endless, is it?
Yeah, if you want to end it, you can just hold the touchpad. And then it'll post your score.
Oh, okay. Perhaps you should have had it since first to 10 or something. Otherwise,
I was going to, but that was the other thing I forgot to say. The main idea for it too is I wanted to scumbag it a little bit and kind of entice people to play it more. So instead of having it be a set number, I specifically put in a scoreboard to try to get people to play it more.
Oh, I see.
Because then they're trying to get the highest score, and it kind of works. People get addicted to that kind of stuff.
There are people that's what drives them. Yes.
Yeah. So that was the angle I went for. If I ever, eventually I probably want to rework this system and do something, a better version of this, where then I probably would have more like set things like that, like time limits and stuff like that, or whatever it may be.
I really like the characters that you've chosen for each of those elements. In fact, this would be a good one if you hadn't put it in the game jam that you had. This would have been a good one for this week's game jam.
For the element one, I know, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't have guessed that would have been that would.
Well,
have been
no,
one.
of course not. No, but there we are.